Retreat series, Dhamma talk number 35. Okay. All that we are doing is practicing Satipatthana Vipassana, mindfulness insight meditation. And this meditation is about developing 5 controlling mental faculties, Pinchendriya, 5 Indriya controlling faculties. And what are those 5? We all know about that. Saddha, faith and confidence. Viriya, effort. Okay. Mindfulness, sati. Concentration, samadhi. And pinya, wisdom. Those are the 5s. We are developing these 5s all the time, trying to perfection. And when we develop that, there are 2 pairs in the 5. Verifiable faith and wisdom. Those need to be in balance. You cannot have one in excess of the other. And also, effort and concentration need to be in a state of balance. And only if you have those 2 sets of pairs of mental state in balance, then you have a very powerful and good and strong 5 controlling mental faculties. The 5th one, sati, mindfulness, it's said that you can never be in excess of it. Stand alone and always in need. You will never be in excess. So those are the basic of our practice there. Now, as we say, these 2 sets of pairs need to be in balance. Okay, look at this saddha. Okay, you can call it verifiable faith or confidence, saddha. If one has an excess of saddha, at that moment, on a practical level, if you are observing the objects moment to moment, with excess of saddha, one cannot see the object with clarity. You cannot see the object with clarity. Of course, you can see the object, you can note the object, you can observe the object. Even within excess, you can do that. But the only thing is the quality of the object, the clarity of the object can never be in a very perfect state. It will be somewhat less obscure. That is what saddha did on an observation level. It's always in excess. And these kind of excess of saddha, why do they arise? Okay. Why do they arise? One thing is when a person have a very good noting, very good observation. You're starting, you're observing. When your noting and observation become stronger and powerful, you have many things arises along with it. And because of these experience, okay, you believe in the system even stronger and more powerful. And because of that, your saddha, your faith and confidence becoming stronger, or you become in excess. Because of the good noting, it's not the bad one. That's one reason. Another reason is there's too much of Dhamma reflection going on in your mind. Thinking about the Dhamma, thinking about the process, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, and so on and so on and so on. In other words, reflection about the Dhamma in the mind at the moment of meditation is going on quite strong. And because of that thought process of Dhamma, reflection of the Dhamma, with your own analysis, you have faith and confidence go stronger. So those are the two main reasons how saddha become an excess. That is fact. And also in terms of timing, let's try to nail how it can arise. Saddha begin in excess, okay? Especially for beginners, before you really have practice. Before you really have practice. Or even you are not a beginner, but you haven't really sink into the practice yet. At that moment, saddha can be excess based on what you have heard, what you have seen around you, and so on and so forth, based on what you took. Your belief, your confidence becomes stronger. So, before you really jump into, before you practice, at that moment, that is a one period, your saddha become very strong. Based on what you see, what you heard, what you analyze, what is happening around your condition. And that kind of saddha, you can call it is more closer to blind faith, because you don't know yet. It is just that you're starting, so it is closer to blind faith. And whenever the word blind faith comes, people really believe, no rhyme or no reason. And here there is some rhyme and reason, but regardless, it can become excessive. So that is one time before you jump into it. Another thing is you are reflecting about these things a lot more, thinking it, analyzing it. Okay? Especially as you're starting, you read a lot, you listen a lot, you discuss a lot, you analyze a lot. And when you are doing like that, what happens is you intellectually begin to believe you know. Intellectually believe you know. And these things, these reflection, the analysis, it's called, Pali word is called vitat. Vitat. And this vitat is so much analysis, and in that you flow into it. Okay? You flow into it. And when you flow into it, what happens? There's so many thoughts come in, and you still think it is Dhamma. You're practicing, you're meditating. But actually, it is called an excess of wisdom, piññā. But it's not really the true piññā as we are trying to search for. It is the intellectual knowledge that you become an excess and you think a lot. So that's what you can become when you are at the starting point. You think a lot. And also, not before now, you start practicing. Not only that you start practicing, you get your teeth sink into it, which means you have quite a bit of good practice and good experiences. So when you have these good experiences, what happens? You flow into it and you start reflecting upon it, you start analyzing on it, you start putting into the pigeonhole and place into it. Again, what happened was you go into the reflective process, thought process again. And in that way, second part, the first one is before, here is after you have progressed. You can go into those thought process again, and then you can have an excess of saddha if you are sinking into that feeling. But if you are not sinking into that feeling, you go into the super analytical process. Especially, there are people on a basic level, their minds are quite sharp. They can analyze things. Without meditation, they are already, that is the mindset they are born with. Let's say your genetic brain has a strong, powerful, analytical, logical nature. Then when you go there, there's so much thoughts come and you analyze it. And when you analyze it, of course, you apply all sort of information that you have. And some of the analysis are pretty good. And there is a word for it in Pali. I mention that quite often, and you have heard it, called Yoniso Manasikara. Wise attention, wise reflection, or wise thought. That one. And as soon as you become wise reflection, it's most of the time, it's only the speed difference there's between one and others, but simply still it is the thought process going on, reflective process going on. And that one again, what happened is you are in excess of wisdom. That's what you call excess of wisdom. But not really the true wisdom, not really the true pinya, excess of wisdom. It is called vitat. Vitat is simply a lot of reflective process going on. Not the true wisdom, but you think it is a true wisdom. As an example, what can happen? Okay, we can put it in your, let's say, daily life. Let's say you read a lot, you understand a lot of Dhamma, you heard a lot of Dhamma. Let's use one word or one example, dana. Dana is generosity or giving. Okay, dana is generosity of giving. But in here, you also understand. You also understand. And whatever you do, in the word karma, the true, precise meaning of karma is volition. We simply say doing, action, but actually the precise is volition. So what it is you are quite knowledgeable, you understand what karma is volition, dana is giving, generosity. And when you give dana, you got a kusala, wholesome result, or wholesome karma, or wholesome merits. These are the information you have. So, what happened? You have a very sharp mind. We have a very critical mind. Oh, you get a good karma. The real thing is volition. As long as there's a volition, you got a wholesome, good merit, good karma. So giving, generosity. As long as I have the volition to give, I really want to give. I have the great desire to give. That's a state. If I have a great desire to give, I am creating an enormous amount of volition. Now I got the good karma. That's it. You simply stop there because you know volition is karma, volition is good merit. But you don't go to the next step. You don't actually do it. You don't give it. You don't have to give. Because giving is not the true karma. The true karma is volition. See how your mind plays. Your mind is you're very smart, you play. So you do not actually give, but you keep thinking about great desire of giving, and you just stay there. I got good karma, finish, my job is done. That's what happened when you are very smart, too clever for your own good. And in here, the truth is, yes, volition, but you don't analyze this. As soon as you have volition, automatically, if you keep it on a normal playing field, as long as you have a volition, automatically the action follows. The commitment is necessary. Volition alone is not submission. Commitment to complete that volition. Only then true karma will arise. So this is the play of the mind. It is not that you are truly giving, you always stop with volition, you don't do it. The true mental state that is arising is miserliness and stinginess. You don't truly want to give what you have. You stop with volition. This is one example of what is the excess of wisdom. It is not the true wisdom. It is you are too clever, you play around, and you become a spin doctor. As you become a spin doctor, you weave the way you want to see, you want to do, you want it to happen. Careful about these things. That's why excessive wisdom, is it truly an excess of wisdom? But it is not truly true wisdom. It is with that. A lot of powerful, analytical, logical, rational mind playing. That's one example. Okay? And that is you can see in your daily life. Another one is, okay, you're practicing and there's a lot of experiences and you start analyzing your experiences. Oh, this is nama, materiality. This is rupa, mentality. This is citta, this is consciousness, this is body. Oh, this is the beginning, this is the end, this is anicca. You just go on and go on and go on, very sharp. One after the other. You think it's very good. Here, I'm watching, I know these things. What am I doing? Oh, I'm knowing my mind. I know. Because I know my mind, I'm practicing Citta-nupassana. This is how you are, concluding, rationalizing, justifying what you are doing. But as long as you are applying, this is nama, this is rupa, this is anicca, this is the beginning, this is the end. Okay. If you are reflecting, and then you know what you are reflecting. Reflect and you know, reflect and you know, reflect and you know. And I'm doing Citta-nupassana, mindfulness of the mind. That is not true wisdom. You think you are deceiving yourself. You reflect and then you justify with you know what you're reflecting. You reflect, you know what you're reflecting. And the reason and the way you are doing is because you like it that way. You love it. You love to reflect and then you justify with, I know what I'm reflecting because it is Citta-nupassana. These are the traps that goes in. The more you practice, the more you become experienced, you will see these things. That is not true knowing. You are doing it because you have a craving, you have a grasping, or you just love the pleasant feeling you arise. You reflect it and you know, you reflect it and you know. Very subtle, very thin line, and you think you are doing the right thing, but that is not right, that is incorrect. Okay. Another example. These are subtle. You seems like unimportant, but it is. Let's say there's a car drove by. Car drove by, you hear the sound. And let's say you are very good with the car and the sound of the engines, you're quite aware of it. So the car drove by. Oh, this is Hyundai engine. Oh, this is Honda engine. This is Nissan. This is Mercedes. This is BMW. Just from the sound, you say, this is BMW. Okay? The engine sound of BMW, the engine sound of Chevrolet, engine sound of Ford Focus. Okay? And you think, oh yeah, I hear, I know so sharply, I even know what kind of car, what kind of model, what kind of design, what kind of make it is. To that level. And if you go to that level, actually there is a thought process going on. You are drawing all the information from different cars, different makes, and then you identifying it, you say, I know in detail exactly. But actually that kind of knowing comes through the recall memory of each and individual types of car. That is not true knowing. That's again reflective knowing. True knowing is you hear a car sound, simply hearing. A sound arises and it passed away. When you really deep into it, you don't even know what it is, simply a sound. A sound arises, you know it. You might feel vibration, you might feel the pitch, you might see simply fade away. That is true knowing. So, these are subtle, and also we say, look at deeply in details. And as soon as in details, you think you have to put a lot of adjectives. That is one misnomer you need to take care of. These are the little things all of you are practicing quite well and quite deep. So these subtleties are trying to explain. So this is a few examples we give. Now we know when we have too much vita, when you reflect too much, and when you rationalized, and when you justify with the Dhamma information you have, and spin it to the way you want. There's a saying in here, if you have an excess of wisdom, we just say wisdom, let's say excess of pinya, wisdom. In other words, too much intellectual information and too much analytical power, you become dishonest. That's a direct saying. You become dishonest means it is not that you're lying. You begin to spin the way you would like to see, you would like to happen, you would like to experience. So just simple saying is, too much of wisdom will create dishonesty. And in here, one should know this wisdom is not the true wisdom, but it is the vita, a lot of mental, analytical process going on. So, very simple in here. We are trying to explain these things because these are the pitfalls. But go back to the basic. There are only two things you need to do. You need to do in your observation. One, object arises, always aiming at the object that is arising. Precise aim, which means you precisely and exactly know when it's come to be, when it arises. And then Stick with it. Stick with that object that arises till it disappears. It's not in the book, I just use 2 words, aim and stick, aim and stick, aim and stick. That's it. So simple, 2 words. And if you can follow that aim and sticks, you are doing precisely what you are supposed to be doing in this meditation. But at the same time, our minds are not that simple. It is quite complicated and it's dragged us into many little pitfalls. So simply remember, aim and stick, and you'll be in perfect position. So it is saddha, faith, and panya, wisdom. So in this excess of saddha, and one thing is, when you have a very good noting, these good experiences arises. When these good experiences arises, you don't go into a lot of thought patterns. Don't worry about it. You just simply keep on noting. These things will wane. In other words, that excess of saddha, faith, that arises from very good noting, without accompanying with much thoughts, simply a lot of pleasant feelings. They will wane by itself. You don't need to go and balance or adjust it. But if the saddha arises from a lot of thoughts, a lot of reflections and analysis, that thing you need to. How would you do it at that moment? Only you can do it. You have to be resolute. You observe the object harder, closer, deeper, more penetrative. Instead of on the words, staying on the words, you observe it harder, deeper, penetrative, harder, deeper, penetrative. The closer and closer, and you observe, all your reflective words, reflective thoughts will disappear, and you will get back to the state of balance. That's how you can maintain it. 2 things. Saddha arises from good experiences, not accompanying with much thoughts. Don't worry, keep on observing, it will wane and adjust by itself. But saddha arises from a lot of thoughts. You really have to forcefully, with tough, hard, close, penetrative observation, look to the object must be applied. And that way you can balance out the excessive saddha. Okay? All that we are talking about is saddha and panya, faith and wisdom, the balancing act between the 2. And also we said about another pair is viriya, effort and concentration, samadhi, okay, need to be in balance. So let's see this viriya. In general, we just say, what is viriya? Effort and energy. But let's go it a little bit more critical and more detailed, technical basis. Effort and energy is different. Okay. I already explained in one way. Energy is something a force or a power. A force or a power. It is not created. Okay? Not purposely created. A force or a power. That's energy. It's a little difficult to explain. But effort is the energy that is produced by actual physical actions or verbal actions. There's the work involved. A work, W-O-R-K, or J-O-B, job, work or job involved. And you do it, you do your job very hard, you work very hard. That is effort. The other one is not. It is not in there. So even though in general, viriya, effort, energy, it is precisely speaking, effort and energy is different. Effort is that physical, actually action, doing it. So in there, what is energy? Energy is a power or a force, a quality. So energy, there are energy produced by faith or saddha. There are energy produced by wisdom. Wisdom can also produce energy. Faith, saddha can also produce energy. And also effort can also produce energy. And also samadhi. Samadhi has its own energy, own power. You see that energy. That's why it's a power or a force. This energy can be produced by many different ways. Through saddha you can produce. Through wisdom you can produce. Through effort you can produce. Through samadhi you can produce. So keep that in mind, the difference between effort and energy. At the beginning we just say, oh, viriya, effort, energy. Now you know a little deeper and clearer. And all these different mental states can produce a power, a force, a quality, and that is called energy. And then here we say there will be an excess of energy or excess of concentration. If there's an excess, you must tone it down. That's at the beginning, loosely down. You must balance it, you must tone it down. That's the way we put it. Now precisely is, actually, you don't really need to tone down. Effort is in high and excess. You don't need to tone it down, but you need to adjust. That is the more precise word. You need to adjust the effort. Adjust so that it becomes balanced with concentration, so that it becomes in harmony with concentration. You must adjust your effort so that it becomes in harmony with concentration. But normally we just arm waving, say, oh, too much, tone it down, too much, reduced it, that kind of saying. But to understand correctly is one must adjust the energy to harmonize with concentration. These two. And if you understand that way, your approach, your application will automatically become different. So that is an excess of energy. Okay. As an example, two people are in conflict. If two people are in conflict, okay, tone it down, lower it down, back off. No, if two people are in conflict, they have to adjust each other's position so that they can communicate harmoniously. If two people are in conflict, don't say you are overdoing it, you are underdoing it, you are wrong, you are right, nothing. Two people get in and adjust their position, their standing, their viewpoint, so that it harmonized between the two. That's what adjustment, that's what balance means. Not pulling it down and not pushing it up. In general, that's how we put it, but now you need to understand even deeper. adjusting to harmonize a condition between two people, between two mental states, between two opposing forces. That is how one needs to. Okay, fine. If that's the case, what? Effort. Okay? Viriya, effort. Viriya is what? Effort. Or to put viriya in other way, it is energy produced through effort. Okay? It becomes a little complicated when we use words. When we say effort is you are actually doing something. You are doing a job, you are doing a work, you are engaging something. So what is viriya? Viriya can be said straight out effort, or it is the energy produced through effort. That is effort. So in other words, why is this viriya becoming excess? Okay. That's for the practitioners to do. Some of the practitioners, I'll put it bluntly, they are very greedy. In what way are they greedy? They are practicing so hard. And they're greedy. They want to grow very fast. They want to hit fast and hard. They want to see the Dhamma, if possible, the next sitting. And they want that insight. They want to know the Dhamma so fast, so hard, and better than anything else. That kind of desire is driving in them. When that desire is driving in them, what happens is they work very hard because of that desire. And when they work very hard, they produce an excess of effort. That's how the viriya become an excess. One type is they want their Dhamma to grow fast and hard and see it as soon as possible, grow as soon as possible, the best as soon as possible. That's one reason of excess in effort. Another reason is, we all know now, when we observe it, our meditation is not a singularity, it's the multi-objects meditation. We observe many objects. Just put little walking meditation. We all know, don't have to go too detailed. It could be lift, push, drop. It could be 3. Or it could be sit, rise, lift, push, drop, touch, press. 6. And you can throw in about 6 intention in front of them, 12. You become greedy and you put a lot. Or you simply just put it. You don't know, you are putting as many as you can. The more I can observe, the better. If you do that way, what happened was, you have bite more than you can chew. When you put too many objects, and if you cannot observe properly, what happened was, you become restless. That is the excess of energy, excess of effort. Excess of effort can produce due to you are observing too many objects. You should know yourself. These are the little tips. Because a teacher is not with you all the time. Most of the time you are by yourself. And if you know these things, it is helpful. One thing is, you want to have your Dhamma happen in the next seconds and enlighten. That's a reason, excess of effort. Another reason is, whatever the program that you choose, the circuit that you choose, you are putting too many objects to observe. Those are the basic reason you have excess of effort. So let's see. The first is the problem. You want Dhamma too fast, too much, and excess of effort. As soon as there's an excess of effort, restlessness comes in. And if that's the case, you know your mind. You want it too much, too fast. You just observe. okay, I'm going to observe it coolly, calmly, and collectively. Just switch your attitude of mind. Don't think about enlightenment in the next second. Finding something in one sitting. Whatever comes, I'm going to observe coolly, calmly, and collectively. Mindset. Your mindset has to be changed. That is the one way of encountering the excess effort. Second one, let's say you are observing objects and sometimes you stumble, sometimes you miss, sometimes you are not precise. You know exactly there's too many objects. Very simple. Reduce the number of objects in your circuit. Instead of 12, make it to 9. Instead of 9, make it to 6. Instead of 6, if you're observing and still much, make it to 4 or 3. You decide and you adjust it. That's the second one, is easier one. So, most of the time, the beginners, when they are starting with great enthusiasm, they put excess effort. They put a lot of effort. And then, because of that, they cannot find the sweet spot. And they become restless. That's one thing out there. That's how one restlessness has come in. Another one is now you're observing with great enthusiasm. Observing. You're beginners observing. And then slowly and slowly you become quite familiar with all these objects you're observing. As you become familiar, what happens? Automatically, you don't put as much effort to know them. They are effort weighing, become familiar, and then also you become bored, and then you become lazy, and you become sleepy. That's the automatic stages. And if that is what is happening to you, okay, at that moment, that is the time to increase the number of objects. So let's say you are meditating on your own, and then you become a little bored and lazy and sleepy. Know that you are quite familiar with the object, and these objects does not stimulate enough to be awake and alert. Under the situation, remedy is increase the number of objects that you are observing. That's the remedy or solution one need to do. So in here, what is this? Effort. The balancing act is with samadhi, concentration. And concentration also what? They produce their own energy. Effort produce their own energy. Energy produced by effort. And samadhi also produce energy. There's an energy produced by concentration. Can you guess what kind of energy concentration produce? The energy concentration produce is calm. Calm is the energy of calm is produced by concentration. That's energy. So that's why I started with there are many types of energy produced by many different mental states. Calm is the energy produced by concentration, samadhi. Why? When you are getting into this concentrated mode, when you're concentrating, you are quite well pinned and focused on the object. And when you are quite well focused on the object, what happens? Raga, kilesa. Okay? In other words, mental defilements, they disappear. Lobha, dosa, and moha, greed, aversion, and hatred, or raga, lust, craving, they simply disappear because they cannot coexist with concentrated mind. Raga disappear, mental defilement disappear in a concentrated mode, in a samadhi mode. And when they disappear, all the vibration, all the vibes produced by those mental defilements, gone along with it. There's no vibration from lust, no vibrations for grasping, no vibration from aversion or even dissatisfaction, all gone. No vibration. Because of that, you have a state of calm. You can call it a state of calm. Or another word they use it, they call it tranquility. Calmness, tranquility. What is tranquility? I'll use the different, little bit change a little bit. Tranquility, if you are tranquilized, if you tranquilize the animal, it becomes tranquil. Tranquility arises. So we think about tranquility as a very positive state. But if you apply through a different mean, not a correct mean, you are tranquilized. Calm, tranquilized. These kind of states come in because there is no vibration from mental defilements. That's a reason. So in here, to put it in a different word, at that moment, you are not alert. You are not truly alert when you are in a calm state. There is no alertness. There is no awakeness. You are not sleepy, but you are not awake either. You are not alert. You are not sleepy, but there's no alertness and no awakeness, no sharpness. It's simply being there in a state of calm and stillness. That mode can go in. That mode is perfect if you are practicing different set of kind of meditation. But in this type of meditation, that state of calm is not conducive for insight. And at that moment, one needs to really observe the state of calm, the feeling of calm, the energy of calm, and you have to see calm, 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 calm. You have to note the calm. It's very difficult when you got into that state. It feels so good, you don't want to observe it. You don't want to observe that calm, but Vipassana job is to observe that state of calm. Calm, calm, tranquil, tranquil, serene, serene. Whatever the state is and whatever word that really click you, you observe that state. And if you state that and if you can succeed it, that calmness will disappear, that tranquility will disappear. But it's funny. We always thought we are meditating to be calm and tranquil and serene. And our meditation, we are trying to note it. Note that it is not that. We need to understand calmness and tranquility is simply under the same law. What law it is? The law of arising and passing away. The law of impermanence. The law of anicca. That's what we need to know. If we don't know this, tranquility and calmness is not under the law of anicca or impermanence. If we think this is above that law, then we'll be stuck there, so to speak, forever. But we must know that it is. That's why you must note the calm as calm till they disappear. That is how you can adjust your concentration. That is how you can adjust your effort. At the beginning, I have mentioned it. Okay? Note the calm till it disappears. So in here, Notice calm. Don't say, oh, there's no alertness, there's no alertness. You don't note as no alertness because you cannot note what is not there. You must note what is there, what you can experience. What you can experience is calm, not no alertness. So be careful, because you read some of the scripture books and it is written in a certain way, you literally take it and you apply that in your meditation and you can go sideways. Must note what is there as it is. Keep in mind, these are the little subtle points that you can go wrong, but you don't truly know it is. If you want to understand the three general characteristics of mind and matter, these become very important. So, the effort and energy, in a very simple way, increase the object to adjust it, decrease the object to adjust it as it is necessary. Increase or decrease the object. That would be the straightforward, simplest remedy. And also there's one little misunderstanding from the point of yogi in the retreat, and you are in excess of effort, and the teachers know that you are in excess of effort. You are in excess of effort, so back off a bit in your application of effort. Because over there you don't speak too much. You don't speak too much, especially if you're going for a long-term retreat. And some teacher might do so, some may not, but in general not. Straight to the point, precise. Back off from your application of effort. But one thing was, the student thinks, oh, teacher say back off. Okay, I think I should better not apply too much. I'm getting quite restless. And even what they do was, they get out and do some chores. Little bit of this, little bit of that. Okay, there are many little things that you can do, or you can simply step down to be a volunteer in the retreat for a few days, for a week or so. Automatically that they think and they go and do that way. And if the teacher is there and so many students, they cannot really cater to everybody's need. That's why these little things are important for you to understand. When the teachers say, okay, release or reduce your effort, we know exactly, decrease the objects. Or another thing is, when you're observing the objects, don't observe it too closely, too deeply, too penetratively. That's what I mean by back off. You observe it from a distance, a little bit of a distance from the object. Okay? The example we use quite often is a stream of lines of ants. When you go really about 6-7 inches, it's very close. You can see exactly there's a long guide. When you go back about 20 feet, there's just a black line. When you look about 5 feet away, so basically whether you are 6 inches away or 5 feet away or 10 feet away, that is close or not close. The same thing, this is a mental object. Just back off means just observe with general awareness. By doing so, your restlessness may go down, but in an extreme case, you can't. You meditate the whole day is restless. 2 days, the same thing, 3 days, the same thing. Only then you can really go out and do other activities. Other activities in the retreat centers are more of a side of the volunteer work. Go back to volunteer work. But don't jump into volunteer work. Go and do volunteer things, you have to back up. Somewhere in the middle, just by relax and general awareness, you are state of energy produced by the effort can be readjusted and rebalanced. These are the little balancing act going on there. And this is important. If you know these things ahead, you have a far more advantage in your retreat. Okay? May all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation, where you develop the 5 controlling mental faculties, and may you be able to balance faith and wisdom, effort and concentration to a state of balance and in harmony, and may you progress as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham puchemi. Dhammam puchemi. Sangham puchemi.